Tell me your dreams, make them as big as you can, so then they have the best chance of maybe working out. Sometimes nothing works out. Sometimes don't be alarmed. Don't shy away when you're in the wrong. I can testify to what it's like being lost inside yourself, a personal hell. But I want to live to the second last day that my children do, selfishly so I can see them through and all that they become. That's all I'll ever become. So spend it all, every last bit that you have. If you need to buy back the peace you lost to the upkeep, renting a room for your soul, I can see how every last downfall of man could one day lead to the end if we can't find harmony and treat others like we'd like to be treated fair. I know it's not really fair. That don't mean that the outcome should be decided solely by the income of people who don't need it for a living still. I want to live to the second last day that my children do, selfishly so I can see them through and all that they become. That's all I'll ever 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 become.
What a great song again, huh, Holly?
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, William Prince, nothing finer than William Prince. First Nations.
So good morning, good afternoon. Welcome all my relations. I'm Bernice UP Jordan. I'm a citizen of the Fort Peck Sioux Nation, Public Health Program Manager, Office of Tribal Public Health, United South and Eastern Tribes. Just want to welcome you to our session today. We have a few audience participation tips. We are building a community. Please introduce yourself in the chat, select everyone, and let your fellow participants know your name, tribal nation affiliation, if applicable, job title, and organization. It's important. We value your partnership, and most importantly, for our attendance records, we need accurate data. If you're able, please change your name on your Zoom as well. Everyone will be muted until the audience feedback portion of the hour. During that segment, use the raise my hand icon on Zoom, and the host will unmute you to offer your reflection. You will receive a link to the recording and presentation by the end of the week. Slide. All right, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Holly so she can introduce our next speaker.
Hi there, everybody. Thank you for joining us. I'm super happy to be with you today, and we have a fabulous guest today who made time out of his very busy life to be with us today and to share some of his insights. And that is Joey Montoya, who is the founder of Urban Native Era. And I thought what we would do is, before I turn it over to Joey, he can introduce himself more. But we thought we would just start by showing you this awesome interview that Joey did with an ABC local venue, and it's really great, and I think you'll enjoy it a lot. So we'll start with that.
To be honest, don't really remember too much of my childhood. There's glimpses of it, but as I reflect now as a little bit of an adult, I remember moments where I felt like I just didn't belong. I felt that this world wasn't designed for me, and I remember with fashion trying on a bunch of clothes, saw what my friends were wearing, and trying to put that on, try to figure out how do I share who I am through my clothes that I wore as a kid. And nothing really fit for me as a kid. Like, I didn't feel seen in a lot of ways. When I think about that right now, it's like we look at the world today, and so much of it was designed not for Indigenous people to be included. So when you think about that, and we think about the future and the future of where we want to go as a brand, is how do we design for our people? How do we design for an Indigenous future? My name is Joey Montoya. I'm Lipan Apache from Texas, but was born and raised in San Francisco, California. I'm the founder and designer behind Urban Native Era. As a kid, I always was taught certain things that were happening in the community, but it wasn't until after my dad passed away I started to really kind of focus in more on who he was and where he came from. So my freshman year of college, I started Urban Native Era when I was 19. What sparked me to start was this movement that was happening in Canada, where the Indigenous people were having their land and water rights being infringed upon. So I remember listening to that and seeing that, all right, like I have to do something. I kind of jumped to action. I started with posting photos and videos of these rally round dances that were happening in support of the First Nation folks in Canada. And I started to take photos and videos and post that on Facebook and through the what is called Urban Native Era. So at first, it wasn't even about fashion. It was really about visibility, really about spreading awareness about Indigenous issues that were happening. The fashion part came after that. And I think that's like what we're all doing today, is like, how do we communicate ourselves in these different ways so that people can really hear us and speak and hear some of the things that we've been going through or that we really want to see in our communities and in this world. I believe fashion shapes a lot of who we are. And if you think about our ancestors and how they designed some of the apparel that they wore, a lot of it's rooted in our culture, in our ways, in the land. So right now, a lot of this fast fashion and these other big brands, they're not designing in that connected way as our ancestors did. So I've been thinking recently about our ancestors, what would they design? What resources would they use? How would they connect it to our people, to the general public as well? Because our brand also focuses on not only just Indigenous people, but how do we really connect with the world through fashion? And I think a lot about like our ancestors. I wonder what led them to create these ceremonies, what led them to create these different aspects of our culture that helped guide them to where they needed to go. And now, what are some things that we can pull from what our ancestors left us? So that's what's been guiding me lately. It's listening to our mind, our body, and spirit, and listening to the Creator and listening to the world around us. Our brand honors who we are as Indigenous people by representation and also just some of the designs we work on. One of our main designs is our You Are Native Land design, which has been seen across reservation dogs, on different characters, and across the world now. And there's a big movement that's happening with the land back movement. But with our Your Native Land design, it's reminding folks that we continue to be here as Indigenous people, how we can continue to be represented in these spaces through different aspects of fashion. The beautiful thing about our community is that we're really tight-knit and small, and we all kind of really want to support each other. But with this specific opportunity to work with Reservation Dogs, some folks reached out from their fashion department when they were shooting the show, and they asked if we could send them a bunch of garments and apparel, and we didn't know at what capacity that was going to be, but we sent them those items, and thankfully they decided to put it on someone that was really a significant person in the show. Character Willie Jack, Paulina Alexis, she brings just this whole other type of representation as an Indigenous person. For her to actually wear our apparel and kind of just rock it and wear it, it felt good for myself, but also I can see how it felt good for our communities to see Indigenous people on the screen, and to see this Indigenous owned brand has their apparel on this big FX TV show. And I think that was really beautiful to see. So I had my moments, but I feel like it was a bigger moment for seeing other people wear our brand on TV, and also just to see the joy of people getting different Your Native Land caps and wearing it just to watch the show. So yeah, it was really great to see how the audience received it. Having Urban Native Era on Willie Jack on Reservation Dogs really helped shift this level of awareness, of attention to the brand. And I think for people that see us on this show, it shows them that we're doing a lot, that we've been working towards a lot. And I'm really thankful for not only myself, but my team that really helped kind of push that into play as well. You know, that we're not working out of our basement or something. I'm at a whole different place now, you know, after, you know, I'll get a little real with y'all, but after the past year, I've been slowing down a lot, just because I've had some challenges with mental health, and that just flipped my world upside down. But then coming out of all that and really like learning how to heal from it, going through that really helped me see who I am as an Indigenous person, who I'm meant to be, and what I'm here to do and leave in this world. And a part of that is fashion and the brand, and really how can we be represented. They actually feel that they're represented and they feel like they belong here. And I think that's like a, you know, constant battle in our communities. Like, do we belong here? And I had to really think about that as I experienced my mental health journey last year of belonging. And it's difficult. Like, I know I belong here, but this world doesn't make it seem like I belong here. So how do we continue to inspire these Indigenous young folk to let them know that we all belong here and we're deeply connected to the world and to everything around us? And it's a lot, but that's where I'm at in my headspace. Until we are visible, until we are seen, until we feel represented and actually are in the discussions or sitting at the table and making these big discussions, we're going to continue to feel that we don't belong. So we need folks to really understand who we are as Indigenous people. As I reflect more, it was just so recently where I actually felt proud of myself, of what I've done and what I've accomplished. Our brand, Urban Native Era, is made for everyone, and we wanted to make sure that people know that, because we need our allies, we need people in these different spaces to be able to wear our apparel as well. And even just the people who feel like these clothes are actually gonna move them through their own journey. There's been many beautiful moments. Aside from being on Reservation Dogs and FX, we've also made it into a bunch of REI stores, and also recently just on Amazon. And it comes to show that like all this work that I did when I was 19 years old, now 10 years later, I'm actually seeing that there will be beauty after this hard work and challenges, and there's a lot of things that come with hard work and dedication, and a bigger vision overall for the future of representation, the future of fashion.
That is so awesome, Joey. And I'm so happy that you are giving sharing this space with us, and so it's just so thrilled to see your success and your all that your personal motivation at 19, and wanting to, like you said, jump into action and kind of
Hmm.
really uh, just grabbed hold of life. And I think that is really incredibly impressive. But let me give you a minute to introduce yourself if you want to say anything more that uh, to add to the video.
Yeah, yeah. I was getting a little, I guess, emotional, watching that too, and that was like about a year after some of the things I went through, and I've come along a longer way, I guess, since then, and just kind of great to be, I guess, reminded of like some of these things, even just by myself. But yeah, my name is Joey Montoya. I'm a Lipan Apache from Texas, but born and raised in San Francisco. I think y'all know already. I started Urban Native Era when I was, I guess, fairly young, and I know I look fairly young now, but I'm 32 years old, so making my way up there. And yeah, I'm excited to be here and to chat and talk all things.
Great. Well, I was just thinking, every Native person, number one is brilliant.
Hmm.
I absolutely believe that. Uh, but number two, it's not always been easy to be brilliant for all the reasons you talked about. And,
Hmm.
um, and we've all had, pretty much everyone I know, every Native person I know has had trials and tribulations, right? We've had great days and we've had really hard days, and we've had great life and we've had really hard life. And I always felt like it's another sign of intelligence to seek help in whatever way you want to.
Hmm.
And I know even with myself and all of uh, I've had a lot of losses, and my parents died 6 months apart when they were in their early 40s. I was a teenager, um, and I've been widowed twice. So it's just lots of um, real death and dying types of life events. But somebody used to say, you'll get over it. And then I thought, I don't want to get over it. I don't want to forget it. I don't want to get over it. I want to learn how to manage the emotions that come with all that and come with that exhaustion,
Hmm.
both emotionally and physically and spiritually. And I want to know,
Hmm.
I want to understand the normal biology of all that. And I want to learn how to better manage myself so I can be
Hmm.
productive and forward moving and not just be stuck in the past. But I always remember that about some people saying you'll get over it. And I thought, something doesn't sound right about that. And then I thought, I know. I don't
Yeah,
want to get over it. I don't want to get over it. I want to learn how to manage
yeah.
it. So your story reminds me of that. I don't know all about your background, but I really appreciate your honesty and your openness to
Hmm.
talk about that in the video. I have a general question for you. How did you come
Hmm.
up with the name Urban Native Era?
Yeah. Urban Native Era. Initially, I was, I guess, consider myself like an urban native. I don't know if that's that much right now. I'm kind of in between Texas and rural part of Texas, and in San Francisco as well. So a bit of both of those worlds. But at the time, yeah, I kind of just started to see that there in like 2012 in particular, there was a lot of things going on, and I think we felt it a little bit. And as I spoke about in that video, was this "I don't know more" movement. And when that happened, I was like, oh, it's like a new this new era of indigenous resistance, and this whole other thing. And I don't know if how long the era will last or be, but I named it that because of what the time we were going through, just kind of that start of it. So it's um, and yeah, that's behind the Urban Native Era name.
That's great. That is so great.
Hmm.
You're just such an example. Like I said, I truly believe that every Native person is brilliant. But sometimes um, other society squashes us down, so we're not able to really let
Hmm.
the brilliance come out. And
Yeah.
I see it often like in art, um,
Hmm.
even by little kids. But I'm wondering what you think. How do you think being Native contributed to your own creative vision?
Yeah, I think so many. I think when I first started, I think the main thing was like, how do we support our community? How do we help in that way? And I think that's like a big thing about being indigenous and native is the community aspect. And then like more as I kind of it's interesting because I'm growing with the brand, and like I'm growing as a kid, as a young adult, and so I'm learning all these things of what does it mean to be indigenous, and it wasn't until probably the last like 6 to 7 years I started to really examine more of the fabric, and learn more about like how intentional our ancestors were. I mean, not just by like seeing what was around and utilizing it, but also just like that connectedness of the fabrics with the land and where it's coming from and how and who's making it. And I think those things are something that I really hold true to some of the things I release today. And some of it's very difficult, like for me to create, because some of those things cost a lot to do to be able to make. But that's kind of like that balance, and I try not to get sometimes I'm like, I don't want to release it if it's not, this particular way, like we need it sourced by this and this and this. And then I kind of like dial it back and I'm like, okay, it's okay to like have some of these aspects, some of these views that I really like hold true, but it's also okay to like, we're not there yet to be able to do that, and we'll get there, someday. So yeah, so the fabric materials is very important, and then just that I'll probably talk a lot about just like reframing our minds to think indigenous. And for me it's like I think about that a lot when I create. So like, who am I creating for? What moments will people experience while wearing some of these clothes? And also, how can these clothes kind of hold us as indigenous people through a world that was never designed for us? And how can these clothes empower us to like move forward and do the things that excite us and not feel intimidated or whatever it is, and so those are the things that like I think about when I create. And I think that just stems from a lot of just indigenous ways of thinking, things that I've taught things that I've learned when I was a kid, and then also things that I'm like relearning now, and just kind of like, okay, like this is how things are meant to be, how they need to be. And you know yeah.
I love that thought about, or almost a mission, it sounds like, and you're reframing our minds to think indigenous because we've been,
Hmm.
even if we don't
Yeah.
feel very colonized, we are,
Yeah.
education
Yeah.
system or everything. And so,
Yeah.
and I think that's part of well, that was part of the purpose of this series of reclaiming Native psychological
Hmm.
brilliance. One is
Yeah.
to reframe how people see Native people, because in the
Hmm.
general, in an oppressed world, there was a sense, and you could feel it, that you weren't good enough, you weren't smart enough, you weren't whatever because you were Native, you were different, but not necessarily in a good way, in a puzzling sort of way. Uh,
Hmm.
and But I wanted to, by a simple message of reclaiming Native psychological brilliance, I wanted to put that image in people's mind that Native people are brilliant. They're the
Hmm.
smartest ones in the room. They may not
Yeah.
verbalize it as much in the way that people think one should, but they're almost always the smartest person in the room, especially kids. The sight
Hmm.
of Native kids sitting in the back of the room, their wheels are turning
Yeah.
time, and they're incredibly intelligent, and it sounds like you agree with that.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And I was thinking about this a little earlier, but yeah, I feel like for youth, um, they are going to create things that, we would never imagine creating. And I also think like, at this very moment, youth are feeling things that we've never felt before, and like all different ways. And I think that's something that's I think about also when creating. It's like, they're going to move through different times in their lives, that are completely different from us and our ancestors, and even like the whole, um, like just a very different thing. And I think like, as much as we want to, we or the older generation want to relate to kids and say, oh, we've had it difficult then, and not to denounce that. I think those are difficult times, but I think like they're feeling it a lot more. And I think that goes into like generational trauma and all these other things. And so it's good to think about that. And then on the other side of it is they have the ability to create things, like I mentioned, like things that we can't even imagine, and they have the energy and power to do so. And I think once we'll talk like a lot about, I guess, Indigenous visibility, but that's like something I was thinking about a lot was, our brand is focused on Indigenous visibility through fashion and design, and like what does that mean? And I think just essentially what it comes down to is like, how do we pave the way for the next generation so that they don't have to fight for visibility and to be seen, where they can just be seen as who they are and create things that are going to change the world.
Yeah, I
Mm-hmm.
love the way you worded that Native young people now are feeling things differently than ever before, and
Mm-hmm.
having experiences that we would never have. And I think that's a huge challenge for people who work in the helping field, whether they're mental health workers or social workers or um,
Mm-hmm.
nurses or whatever they do in the Native communities.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I've never heard anyone describe it like you just described it, that the younger
Mm-hmm.
Native people are feeling things differently than ever before.
Mm-hmm.
And I think
Mm-hmm.
that is a really powerful message to people in, who are in the helping career, because they're older just by nature of
Mm-hmm.
their work and their
Mm-hmm.
training and education than the younger people that they're trying to support. And I think it's really
Mm-hmm.
difficult for to think about that, about how what it feels like, what those experiences are like that young Native people have now, especially with social
Mm-hmm.
media and all of that. But just it's just feels their first time feeling this, like maybe in ancient times our ancestors had first time experiences with something.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
that's happening again right now, right?
Yeah. Yeah. That's actually how I kind of see it sometimes. I think like, yeah, our ancestors were very sensitive to feelings, and emotions and things that like have been kind of like pushed down through this society, the last, whatever amount of years. And um, I sometimes see it as, colonizations happen in like a little like blimp of time for us as Indigenous people. And that, cord is still very close enough to pull in from. And for like folks who've been colonized for like thousands of years, that is like further apart to reach that energy, that feeling. And I think we as Indigenous people are so close to that. So it's just like a step away to like, how do we, and we think about energy and feeling. Sometimes we think of like tough feelings, but I think it's like there's a beauty of energy as well. And I think there's like that's what I'm kind of talking about. It's like there's that energy that you can pull in from that our ancestors kind of felt and that we're feeling now very closely. And I think, yeah, like I said, the younger generation can feel just everything. Hmm.
Yeah, and I've often thought about um, the energy of chaos, the energy of pain, the energy
Hmm.
of whatever it might be, and even in an organization, um, when things are chaotic, or in a family when things are chaotic, there's a
Hmm.
tremendous amount of energy, right, from all the
Hmm.
people in that organization or in that family. And I always thought that there's tremendous support that could be given if you can channel that energy. You can move the
Hmm.
whole situation to an entirely different level and a better level.
Yeah.
But it
Yeah.
takes
Yeah.
skill in knowing how to do that.
Yeah. And yeah, and that's, a little bit on like what I think about like mental health is that like, the society has kind of have a negative connotation to it. And, in a way they want to shut it down quickly. But I think, what I believe in is our ancestors really nurtured that and, moved you through it and figured that out. So yeah, just kind of like thinking a little bit about those things of like, how do we, nurture that to actually become a positive thing. And for me personally, like, I could have I was talking about this the other day. I could have went the whole other route. It could have been, you know, a lot more difficult and stuff like that. But, for me as a person, I'm able to pull myself up and, having a lot of community and support and family around, helps a little bit. But, there is always that challenge about belonging that I spoke a lot about in it too. So, but yeah.
Well, I think that sense of belonging is really critical, and it's a very settling part of humanness to be
Hmm.
to feel like you belong. And if you
Yeah.
don't feel like you belong, well, we see what happens. We probably both
Hmm.
know people who have gone kind of to the dark side because they feel
Yeah.
they
It,
don't belong and all of that.
yeah. Yeah. And, the world today doesn't make it easy for us to feel like we belong, and I spoke a little bit about that, but, for me, I think about a lot about design, not only just like fashion, but like design in space. And, like I think I mentioned this in the video where I think about, if our ancestors were here at this time, like how would they actually design, these spaces with these resources, and I think they would be really intentional. I think about like, if you, have a piece of land, like maybe not, building something right away. What if you're able to have ceremony on there, could, be there for, 5, 10 years, and kind of actually get to know the land a lot more. And I do that sometimes with, where I live too. I'm like, like I've been there for 4 years, now, and, I think about like I haven't put up like too many things, haven't changed anything, but I'm kind of just like feeling it out, as I every year just kind of seeing like what am I getting of like of what I want to change or adjust, or so, it's kind of that my mind frame is thinking indigenous. It's like, how do we take a step back? And yeah, the society right now doesn't make that really easy to do because everything's so fast and quick, and capitalism and all those things that I always have, a challenge with, especially like running a brand. Like, my main initial thought is like, how do we give back? How do we do all these things? But I'm also here for the long game. I want us to exist until we can exist. You know, no further, I guess. But we want to keep putting out things and bringing these, ideas, into play. And I think right now we're at this interesting time in in the world right now, and a lot of change is happening. So I think it's indigenous people are going to be the ones to really shift and change things and bring in this other perspective that everyone else just needs to be a little bit reminded on, of like how to exist in this world.
I completely agree. And
Hmm.
I think that um, the whole world is turning back to indigenous, as they find
Hmm.
themselves in messes to find their way back. And I had mentioned
Hmm.
before that the mental health and behavioral health fields have turned back to
Hmm.
an indigenous approaches compared to the uh, colonized approach to treatment
Hmm.
or back in the day, and healthcare's turned back to a lot of indigenous medicines, and
Hmm.
forest restoration has turned back to indigenous, and um, restoration of fish, and all aspects of land and humanness. Uh, it seems to me, at least that's just my opinion, that things indigenous is going to light the way forward. So,
Hmm.
so back to your term of an error, I think I just,
Yeah.
and you do it through apparel, which is really awesome.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
how did you, so I want to just go back to the sense of belonging, and
Hmm.
how do you think, because we've talked about the transition from a young Native person that might be in a confused state and
Hmm.
maybe not in the best place that where they want to be in their life.
Yeah.
Um, but with certain kinds of supports, they get to Native pride. It's a good day to be
Hmm.
kind of feeling.
Yeah.
How do you think? What do you think about how people who are in the helping field can help notice that these some people are really young people might be really confused or feeling like they don't belong, and how do how do they get engaged? I think that's the other thing, because like I
Yeah.
said,
I
there's
th Yeah. I I don't know. Sometimes I kind of I feel like of course, like, even though we are indigenous, like each of us, we are designed for a specific purpose. And I think, purpose is something within our communities, even is like it's nourished, I guess, a lot more. And I think um, when we're able to really like learn our purpose, or at least like a little bit of a guide into it, I think that's something that is going to help a lot of Native folks that are trying to figure out who they are. And even before purpose, and you can do this simultaneously, I think it is knowing who you are, where you come from. Um, and that's like a key thing. I think you need to, in order to be human, you need to know who you are. And I think, you know, um, our culture, even after some of the like colonizations, we've held on to a lot of these things. But for a lot of people who are like non-native, that's a could be a lot more difficult, because we think like, for example, the United States, right, and it doesn't really have a culture that is grounded um, with like the land. And it doesn't have like ceremonies or coming of age that's grounded. And I think with our youth, especially, is that they have to go through those coming of ages, and that's something that our people were really in tune with. We had our ceremonies for a reason, right? And in today's world, that's not prevalent. It might be when you turn 18 or 21 or maybe 15. There's like some cultures that have those things. So yeah, I think it's understanding that, right? Like, as human beings, as people, and as indigenous people, we have to go through and learn who we are as Native people, and then go through some of our, coming of age and really understand who we are, and then that will eventually, I feel like, develop that purpose. And for me, it's like, growing up too, that I feel like I went through my moments of belonging and like that transition of like, who am I as a Native person growing up in San Francisco, or I'm a mixed identity, I guess. I never really referred to myself as that, but on my mom's side, she's from El Salvador, Guatemala. So we have like those Native roots as well, um, and yeah, so like I think about those things, and I think it's, yeah, essentially just like creating that space for someone to do that, and without judgment, without whatever, but then having those people to guide them through it. And yeah, it's kind of difficult, and I think it's hard in the health system a lot, and I think because there's so many like things you can do, you can't do, and I think we're, like you mentioned, we're breaking those barriers slowly, of like that line for Indigenous folks. But yeah, I don't know if I answered some of the questions or all of it, but
Yes, you did. You always do. Well, I think, you're talking about ceremony, and I mean, talk about building a sense of belonging. You
hmm
know that whatever ceremony you're exposed to, if you're lucky, that your ancestors, your parents, your grandparents, your great grandparents,
hmm
all the way back, have done the same ceremony, and often in the
yeah,
same place. And
yeah,
talk
yeah,
about belonging. And I think that kind of wake up call, or exposure to understanding that lineage of history is
hmm
really incredibly grounding to people, and
yeah,
ultimate sense of belonging, right?
yeah, and I also like believe too that like even with some of these ceremonies as well, like as much as we lean on like traditional stuff, the stuff that we've been doing for like thousands of years through ceremonies, I also think like, I mentioned it earlier, like we're in this different time, and our youth are feeling all these things, something that we've never felt before. So I believe like if our ancestors were here today, they would think about these like new ceremonies or different ceremonies that are still grounded in our like cultural beliefs, still grounded in our relationship to land, um, but also something else that can actually hold our youth in this time. Because yeah, I can't speak. I can speak a lot about, I guess, a lot about like the times we're in, and this all reflects back to even my purpose and developing that, and molding it, and even going through my mental health experience too, is deepening that purpose, and coming out of that um, as just knowing, you're here for a reason. And I truly believe that, like, if we are alive today, physically alive today, like we are meant to be here. We are meant to change the world. And when people think about changing the world, we think like these big things like a peace prize, or this, developing a new, you know, antidote to whatever. But honestly, what I believe we're meant to do is meant to do the things we love, to uh, exist and just be Indigenous people, follow the things that like excite us, that and like whether that's like cooking and culinary. And I think those are the things that are actually going to change the world. It's like doing the things that actually are exciting to you. And I think that that's some of the things that like our youth need to remember. Is um like just like follow your excitement, and follow the things that you love to do, and you'll figure out your purpose. And and I reflect back onto who I was as a person too, and I remember just like, oh, that's exciting, I'm going to go that way, and then we do this and that. And it kind of came to where I'm at today. And I think that had a role in like urban native
Mhm.
era, had a my purpose in life, and all these things. So Yeah.
That's great advice.
Hmm.
Find what they always, some people say, find your passion, follow
Yeah.
your passion, and then
Hmm.
it'll all be okay if you find your
Yeah.
passion. That's
Yeah.
awesome. Well, that kind of brings us full circle to some really cool conversation. But I wanted to ask um, Jackie if she had any question or anything she wanted to. Jackie Vorpal's one of our clinical team members for that worked
Hmm.
with me behind the scenes on these series, and I just wondered if she had anything or Ken.
Well, of course, this is so fascinating. I have lots of questions, but I'll just pull one out. I put one in the chat, but in the video, you said, the way that you came up with your brand was listening to the world, listening to your people, the indigenous people around you, and listening to yourself. But it also sounds like through your mental health journey that you've learned how to listen to your emotions as
Hmm.
information rather than being afraid of them. And I'm
Hmm.
wondering if you would be willing to share just a little bit about how you got there.
Yeah. Honestly, like I think, um, I believe like learning some core indigenous ways of thinking and about like the things I learned when I was a kid and just through like the young adulthood of being indigenous, it honestly helped me through my personal journey. And of course, there's so much for me personally what kind of I went through, but there are these core things that I've like really leaned on and I kind of like followed, and it was like when you for me it was like I was right by the water, and like I was taught like you go by the water, if you're ever feeling angry or upset or and those waves and that ocean will kind of help you, so those like little small things that kind of help me, and then it's just a lot of it I think too is reflecting on like all these things too, like as a kid, and reflecting of like who I am, and if I don't reflect like every month on just some of these things, like I don't actually learn like, okay, how can I move through this world? Because to be like completely honest, it's really difficult for me, and it's more so difficult after some of the things I went through, and it's because I feel like I'm a complete different person in a way. It's like this new thing just kind of opened up for me, and with that, it could be really beautiful, but it's also really challenging to navigate a world that essentially, like I mentioned, isn't designed for the now. It's not designed for the future at all either. So it's some things I do personally. I'm like, okay, I like tell myself like, okay, I'm going into this space. Many things are gonna happen or could happen that are like out of my control, and I'm gonna be okay with like moving through it. And like that thought process, sometimes like going into a room or going into a space that's like out of your control, helps me navigate this world, and until I redesign it all, that will have to do.
Oh my
Great.
gosh, thank you so much for your openness.
Hmm.
That is so helpful as a psychologist that you're sharing your personal experience of these things, and they're not small. I want you to know
Hmm.
those are not small, they're huge. And
Hmm.
for us to hear and for our youth to hear, from a person that they
Hmm.
look up to and they see,
Hmm.
what you have come through and what you continue, right, to grow every day.
Hmm.
It's
Hmm.
really moving and powerful. So thank you.
Of
Thanks.
course.
I think everything you're saying really ties into the innate brilliance that Native people have and hold.
Hmm.
And sometimes they just need a little bit of information,
Hmm.
And then they could go with that. They can fly with it. But if they don't have that little bit of information, then, they're more susceptible, anyone more susceptible to being kind of stuck and maybe even regress. But I think a little information goes a long ways. And I think a lot of
Hmm.
people, Native people, have that kind of talk with themselves.
Hmm.
Saying,
Yeah.
I remember when horrible things have happened, my experiences. I remember one time and I was young. I was, I don't know, I was young, but I remember thinking consciously, well, this could either be the worst thing that ever happened to me in my life, and I could just throw myself on the ground and roll around the dirt all my life, or I could get up
Hmm.
and do something about it. And I just
Hmm.
get up, and I didn't have a whole lot of information about what to do, but I think that you have those kind of talks with yourself and get up, and go forward
Hmm.
and make,
Yeah.
change the world, as you say.
Yeah. 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 I also see like so many different paths sometimes. I'm like, okay, I could react in this way or I could react in this way. And I see like I can see the outcome, and I'm like, I don't really want that like at all. So I'm like, okay, let me like go with this like, other outcome. But yeah, like it's interesting. Like I see all these things and I'm like, like I yeah, like it is kind of calming yourself down and
Yeah,
yeah, and like I said, when I talk about like the youth are feeling a lot of things and honestly I feel a lot more and even after my experience it's been I feel differently, I can feel a lot like emotionally different. And that's for me, it's a very interesting thing that I'm still like navigating and understanding. Um, but yeah, so it's just like, how do we, move through this world? And it's a learning thing too. And I think it's okay to be angry. It's okay to be sad. It's okay to cry. Best advice I got through my experience was an elder was like, you have to cry because before I wasn't crying, and she was just like, you got to cry and let it out. And the moment that happened, I felt like this whole like my body was like healing in a way. It was like healing, and I was like it was doing these things that I can barely kind of describe. But that was one of the best advices I received from an elder.
that's
Yeah.
great advice. That's wonderful.
Hmm.
So, Ken, let
Yeah.
me just ask you real quick, Ken, if you have a comment or a quick question, then we'll move over to Olivia's section.
Thank you, Holly. Joey, thank you. I just want to sit down and spend several hours with you with a cup of coffee or tea or something. But yeah, a few things just I'll comment very briefly. One is you said in the video about getting real, and I feel that realness, see that realness, and I
Hmm.
appreciate the authenticity. It's one of the best
Hmm.
gifts we can give to each other, I think.
Hmm.
The other thing, we talked a little bit about, maybe Holly said, follow your passion. And I'm always
Hmm.
struck by the root meaning of the word passion means to suffer. And when we follow our passion, we give up a lot, and we suffer that, right? But we enter into
Hmm.
this deep meaning sort of commitment to that which we're pursuing. And whether it's
Hmm.
fashion or all the other brilliant ideas you have, I see that willingness to suffer to move
Hmm.
beyond, and just want to express my appreciation.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ken. Well, Joey, fabulous. I
Hmm.
enjoy being in the presence of apparel brilliance and heartfelt general brilliance. And I love the
Hmm.
way you talk about your insight into how young people or young Native people are feeling things different from
Hmm.
first time. It's the first time experiencing this
Hmm.
point in time we're in, and I think it's really profound what you've shared with
Hmm.
us. So let me
Hmm.
switch gears because we're getting closer to the top of the hour to Livia.
Hmm.
And she'll do our reflections, and then, as usual, we have another wonderful video to close with.
Hmm.
Well, thank you so much. It was incredible just to listen to you both. And Joey, your wisdom is just much appreciated. Thank you for sharing.
Hmm.
And you as well, Holly. So I put a couple of comments in the chat, so prompts, just inviting folks to think about, what did you hear from the presentation in terms of helping to engage with Native young people if you are a behavioral health practitioner, and what specific tips might you have to apply some of your brilliant suggestions to improve kind of what you're doing. And I am really appreciative of some of the very specific examples in the chat. And of course, what you also shared, Joey and Ken and Jackie and Holly, because you talked about a number of things like, following your passion, taking time to reflect, how to create ways for young people to engage with their culture and people. There were some comments in the chat also talking about, yes, a lot of more Western medicine is looking at engaging and incorporating indigenous well-being practices because we understand just the wisdom and the healing properties of all of that, all of those practices. There also, was some comments in there around, how do you best incorporate opportunities for folks to talk about how colonization has impacted you, and what did we do to also look at that in order to move forward? I loved your example also of, the cord that Native young people have to some of the colonization, the impact colonization is in a way younger than for other people who have been oppressed. And so there's more of a way for you to move it forward, to give it light, to try to process it. And what are ways that can be supported when you are working with young people or indeed any Native population you're serving in your behavioral health arena? So those are just some of the things I heard, but I just love how many ideas also were in the chat. And there was one specific question, and I know that Beth, it was from you, and I'm not sure we can get to it, but I want to at least just acknowledge that we see it in there. You're talking about the tribal blood quantum issues. And we will try to kind of connect, give some a response afterwards, because I think it takes longer to try to answer it than we have today. But thank you for all your amazing chat responses and ideas, and thank you, Joey and Holly.
Thanks.
Yeah,
Well,
thank you.
yeah, this is great, and I do want to mention, and maybe Lee's put it in the chat, Urban Native Era, all one word.com. You want to look at the apparel and the uh, the simple but profound messaging that Joey has in his apparel. Maybe you'll run into one of his hats or something at
Yeah,
REI.
yeah,
Impressive. We didn't even talk about how you navigated as
yeah.
not any of them, how you navigated and got into the big business of clothing
hmm
apparel. So very cool. Um,
Yeah.
well, it is 5 minutes before that top of the hour, and I think um, unless there's anything else, we'll go ahead and go on to our closing. So just a reminder that next month we're starting July, August, September. We're starting a 3-month focus on lateral violence. And so Cedric Woods, our friend in Boston, is who's Lumbee, and I believe he's going to talk about lateral violence in terms of Lumbee's becoming a federally recognized tribe recently. And he's always you want to hear from Cedric. He's really a fabulous man, very well respected Native person in Boston area. So he'll be here next month. And then the next slide. So this is our closing video, and it is a Native rap group. And what they talk about in it is the importance of young Native people registering to vote.
Hi, Holly. We also have a survey in the chat, so
Okay.
please fill out that survey. It is important. Thanks, everyone.
Well, thanks, Bernice, for reminding me. I forgot about it, but I can see it in the chat right now, the survey link to qualtrics.com.
Hey, we can make a change if we try. Don't you want your family to be good when you die? And if you tell me no, I say you live in a lie. We can make a difference and it starts with you and I, you and I. Hey, we can make a change if we try. Don't you want your family to be good when you die? And if you tell me no, I say you live in a lie. We can make a difference and it starts with you and I.
It starts with you and I, don't get it twisted right. You can make a lot of change with the flick of a pen. And if they told you any different, yeah, they itching to win. I'm voting Marshall on the ballot cause he bout what he says. And if you don't speak up, how you supposed to get fed? We fought state to state in 62 with the feds. For this right, we gon' fight. We gon' make a change if we try.
Hey, we can make a change if we try. Don't you want your family to be good when you die? If you tell me no, I say you live in a lie. We can make a difference and it starts with you and I, you and I. Hey, we can make a change if we try. Don't you want your family to be good when you die? If you tell me no, I say you live in a lie. We can make a difference and it starts with you and I. Hey. The world a crazy place, I know we all agree. If it ain't Native lives matter, then don't talk to me. All lives matter when all of our lives matter. I just wanna see the action, I don't care about the chatter, nah. If you wanna see change, then be it. I know you wanna see your family win, it ain't no secret. So when it come to picking leaders, you should mean it. The world a ugly place, we should be the ones to clean it. Native strong, all my people native strong. We will put through the worst and we came right out at the top. Ay, we resilient, strong, beautiful, brilliant. Need a leader like Marshall to build and keep building. Ay, we can make a change if we try. Don't you want your family to be good when you die? And if you tell me no, I say you live in a lie. We can make a difference and it starts with you and I, you and I. Ay, we can make a change if we try. Don't you want your family to be good when you die? If you tell me no, I say you live in a lie. We can make a difference and it starts with you and I. Ay.
What's the use? My vote doesn't matter. Man could playing games. It's time to rise together, be noticed, and make a real change. Unity, confidence, and hope is gonna get us to the next stage. We may have different opinions, but I wanna hear what you have to say. When it's my turn, shh, don't talk. Listening to understand is the only way. I don't wanna hear go vote, then not hear from you until the next election. As a Native American growing up, I've noticed that we never have much leverage. Society and the government overlook our struggles. They are rarely addressed or mentioned. We are calling for a systematic change, and I'm gonna send a direct message. We need more outlets on the res to prevent suicide and depression. We don't need more casinos. We need some treatment centers. My goal is to motivate and prove to the youth that we can make the future better. I ain't stopping. This is only the beginning. I'm gonna keep applying pressure. Oh wait, hold up. What we gonna tell them?
Hey, we can make a change if we try. Don't you want your family to be good when you die? And if you tell me no, I say you live in a lie. We can make a difference and it starts with you and I, you and I. Hey, we can make a change if we try. Don't you want your family to be good when you die? And if you tell me no, I say you live in a lie. We can make a difference and it starts with you and I. Hey.
I love listening to those guys. We've had some great folks. Thank you all for your time in joining this space today. Folks in Tlingit, Haida, Oklahoma tribes, North Dakota, Louisiana, New Mexico, Missouri, New York State, Los Angeles, and our First Nations guests. So we always love seeing our team. You guys are part of our team, Reclaiming Native Psychological Brilliance team, and our team gets bigger and bigger, and we love seeing all the different thoughts that you're sending through the airwaves to us. We appreciate it. So hope to see you guys next month. And like I always say, you all have a brilliant native day. Bye, everybody.